the city was in violation of a court injunction from evicting the occupiers at what is formerly known as Zuccotti Park, now Liberty Square, from their occupation. We spoke about that extensively yesterday. We were anticipating a court order as of 3 p.m. It didn't come in until about 5 p.m. And the court ruled in favor of, I guess it's accurate to say, in favor of the city and the owners of Zuccotti Park. The relevant part of the decision from Judge Michael Stallman read in part, to the extent that city law prohibits the erection of structures, the use of gas or other combustible materials, and the accumulation of garbage and human waste in public places, enforcement of the law and the owner's rules appear reasonable to permit the owner to maintain its space in a hygienic, safe, and lawful condition and prevent it from being liable by the city or others for violations of law or in tort. It also permits public access by those who live and work in the area who are intended beneficiaries of this zoning bonus. So it basically came down to tents. Not allowed to put up tents, which are supposedly permanent structures. Of course, I think it was a National Lawyers Guild member who said, well, the idea of them being permanent sort of moot. They were torn down. They're not, the idea that you can actually take them down means that they're not permanent. So it's unclear at this point what legal action is going to follow. People did sleep in the park last night. Not many, but some. According to the New York Times, there were a few dozen protesters who remained in the park. They slept sitting up or didn't sleep at all, but they stayed in the park over through the night. At Judson Memorial Church across the street from Washington Square Park, 60 protesters were sprawled out on blankets in the church lower parish hall. It's according to a volunteer there. There was no any type of friction last night, as far as we know, at the park. And there was a massive General Assembly last night in the park, and was rather inspirational. I mean, I have said for quite some time that the occupation was incredibly important to maintain, and qualified really only by the idea that if it's not allowed, it's not a question of the occupiers all sort of quitting and losing their determination. They are figuring a way to occupy the park within the restrictions that have been imposed upon them. I think there are further legal questions to be answered here as to whether or not the idea of a 24-hour occupation of a space is not free speech. This is not being done recreationally. That is not the primary purpose of it. It is to send a message. It seems to me it's just as obvious that occupying a space and everything it takes to do that over the course of 24 hours or an extended period of time should be just as legally protected as money is as a form of speech. Because money, my understanding is, and we'll get somebody on maybe to talk about these legal issues tomorrow, but if money is a mechanism in which to provide its spender speech, I don't understand how a tent is not facilitating that same desire to send a political message. But maybe there's an attorney who can set me straight, or maybe this is an issue that that needs to be resolved. There was a statement put out by OccupyWallStreet.org, and this came yesterday before the final ruling by the judge. But it went on to say, a massive police force is presently evicting Liberty Square, home of the Occupy Wall Street, for the past 2 months, and the birthplace of the 99% movement that is spread across the country and around the world. The raid started just after 1 a.m. Supporters and allies are mobilizing throughout the city, presently converging at Foley Square. Supporters are planning public actions for the coming days, including occupation actions. 2 months ago, a few hundred New Yorkers set up an encampment at the doorstep of Wall Street. Since then, Occupy Wall Street has become a national and even an international symbol, with similarly styled occupations popping up in cities and towns across America and around the world. A growing popular movement has significantly altered the national narrative about our economy, our democracy, and our future. Americans are talking about the consolidation of wealth and power in our society and the stranglehold that the top 1% have over our political system. More and more Americans are seeing the crises of our economy and our democracy as systemic problems that require collective action to remedy. More and more Americans are identifying as part of the 99% and saying enough. This burgeoning movement is more than a protest, more than an occupation, and more than any tactic. The us in the movement is far broader than those who are able to participate in physical occupation. The movement is everyone who sends supplies, everyone who talks to their friends and families about the underlying issues, everyone who takes some form of action to get involved in this civic process. This moment is nothing short of America rediscovering the strength we hold when we come together as citizens to take action to address crises that impact all of us. Such a movement cannot be evicted. Some politicians may physically remove us from public spaces, our spaces, and physically they may succeed. But we are engaged in a battle over ideas. Our idea is that our political structures should serve us, the people, all of us, not just those of us who have amassed great wealth and power. We believe that is a highly popular idea, and that is why so many people have come so quickly to identify with Occupy Wall Street and the 99% movement. You cannot evict an idea whose time has come.